You must be careful about the words you use, or the words you allow to be used in your house. Words are things. You must be careful. Careful about calling people out of their names, using racial pejoratives and sexual pejoratives and all that ignorance. Don't do that.
It's time to talk about it.
Pull up a chair and take a seat.
We're serving up recipes for life.
With Hampton University's Dr. Richard Mason and Dr. Tamara Williams.
Welcome to the Sunday Brunch.
This is Dr. Tamara Williams.
And this is Dr. Richard Mason. And welcome back to another edition of Sunday Brunch right here at the table. How you doing?
I'm doing. Does that count?
Listen, sometimes...
Does that count?
Hey, so long as you doing, because when you don't...
It won't be done.
Exactly.
Okay. Yes. So I'm doing. We're rapidly approaching this holiday season. Classes are classes.
Listen, getting to that place.
Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. And we're all, feeling that pull and that tug.
Oh, yeah.
As we, round that corner in that finishing stretch of the semester.
Exactly. And this is always a trying time. One, because of course, the holidays, but then also the stress of exams and just a lot of stuff, just, culminating, lots of hard work for our students as well as our faculty. So we're in an interesting place right now.
Amen. Anybody in education will tell you that. And I don't even think it's just higher education, just education in general. Around this time, they start to feel that pull and that tug. And they're looking for a long break. They want extended breaks, I hear.
Man, they want some additional time for Thanksgiving.
Yes, right,
and,
you're right. You're right. I've heard about those things. They're requesting like extra days. Like last year we had a whole week off. Can we get a week again?
Exactly. Just so much. And although we always want to be able to give those types of things, we can't always do it just because of just some other things that are in motion, unfortunately, so, but that doesn't mean we don't care, but it's just what it is, should I say. But we're going to keep on moving along with this and hopefully be able to offer some folks some things that they can do just in terms of just that personal rejuvenation and personal self-care.
So self-care is not selfish. And
no.
This time of year, a lot of people are in that mode of where they want to help other people. But, at this table, we always are very firm of putting on your mask first before you assist other people. You can't really help other people if you're not really helping yourself.
Help yourself. And
we have populations out there who are not always able to help themselves. And they lean on people like us at the table today to help and assist them. So I'm really excited about this conversation. Not excited in the sense of that other people are out there struggling, but excited about the fact that we get to talk about what other people don't really want to talk about.
Exactly. That's why I like the table. Besides the food, you know what I'm saying?
Food is always there.
Can't get away from the food. I'm a foodie. But anyway, but just the information and the topics that we're able to share and talk about with our guests at the table, our listeners are able to glean from their experiences and share their knowledge with our listeners and all or whatever. And so people are able to kind of picture their lives and recognize there's some blind spots that I may need to work on as well. And these conversations typically they've been very helpful to people. I get those messages all the time just in terms of people having listened to the show and the different topics that we have. And you just never know what other people are dealing with and what they're going through.
I get those messages too. And I have people who walk up to me and say, "Is that you?" And I listen to you. So people I would not even ordinarily, would think would tune in, but they're listening because I think that we talk about things that people don't normally get to talk about, but these are things that they experience, that they see, that other people experience. And we want to normalize that mental health is real. It's out there. It exists. You can't run from it. What you're running from is what you're running to, and that we just do better when we know better.
Exactly. That's
And we know
that's
what
a big
to
thing.
do.
Exactly. And being able to put those things out on the table, that's the important part of it. Even if you don't know what to do, the fact that you can actually speak it and put it out there really makes it real, because otherwise, as you're dealing with these things and they're just going on in your own mind, in your own head.
You think you're crazy. You're the only one that is experiencing that, and you suffer in silence. And a lot of people end up internalizing those things. Like, I really feel when you're struggling, you internalize it, you become more depressed and anxious. You externalize it, become more aggressive and assertive towards other people, and you have those other type of issues and concerns. And so we just need to learn how to really exist within ourselves and with other people safely.
Right. And what I explain to people a lot of times is expression is advocacy. And you have to be able to advocate for yourself. And being able to talk about what you're going through, what you're dealing with and all, is a way of saying, hey, listen, I may need help with this situation, but it's also saying here, I'm not okay. And it's okay to not be okay.
We agree on that. We agree on that. Our business is based on the fact that people are not okay. And it's not that we're advocating for people to not be okay. We just acknowledge the fact that people are not okay. People are not okay.
And it's
there's people out there pretending to be okay. And there's no shame in needing help. The shame comes in knowing you need help and just refusing to get it. There's a lot of people out there willing to help. And once we know that we need help, we can get out there and get the help. So I'm excited about the conversation we're going to have today, because we get to have a talk with someone who's out there on the front lines.
Yes.
Working with the populations, not just one population, but many different populations that need different mental health services, many marginalized populations, many misunderstood populations. And this time of year when everybody wants a table to eat at.
Yes.
Everybody wants a table where they belong. I think it's important that we stop and have a conversation about some people who don't always get an invite to the table. Or sometimes their behavior has excused them permanently, from some tables.
Yeah, I do understand that.
And then our people who, then sit and dine and try to help them get back to the table. I'm telling you, right? And it's a great work, I'm looking forward to this conversation, too, because the people at the table, we end up helping people, but we always have to be mindful to be careful of those impacts on ourselves, too.
Exactly. Guard your own peace.
Physician, heal thyself.
Exactly.
All those things, yes.
Well, I'm going to go get me a piece of bacon right now.
Oh, please.
So I'll let you go ahead and get started while I go ahead and make my plate.
You already know what I want.
Yep, your biscuit with a little honey butter.
Yes, but bring some of that bacon back, too.
Got you covered.
I want to welcome to the Sunday brunch table for the first time, may not be the last time, Masai Black. Masai, I want to welcome you to the table, and we'll get a chance to talk about how you contribute to this field and the ways in which you do that. So they'll get a chance to know a little bit more about you. But I want to welcome you to this table and want to thank you in advance for the work that you put out there for these populations that need help with their mental health services.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
And did I hear correctly that you are a Hamptonian?
I am definitely a Hamptonian.
All right. Yes.
Welcome back to your home by the sea.
Yes. Actually, I was a journalism major, so
welcome back to the microphone.
Scripts is what brought me to Hampton. Actually, I did the tour, and I said I want to go there.
Really?
It sold me.
It's
Awesome.
So you have to tell us then, how did you jump from coming to Hampton, understanding journalism and studying journalism, and jumping into the mental health field?
I did not want to be a therapist when I grew up.
Okay.
My goal was to be a journalist, be in production. Graduated from HU, great experience. I'm born and raised in Atlanta, so I went back home. And I did not like the field once I really got into it. It really wasn't what I wanted to do. I didn't enjoy it, so I had the opportunity to come back here where it was familiar. My last year at Hampton, in order to fill up my schedule. I took a lot of psychology classes, and at the time, to be a QHMP, you only had to have a certain degree. So I had a friend. She said, "I think you'll be good at this. Let's try it." I didn't have anything to lose, so I packed up my Toyota Corolla and I came back to my home by the sea. That was in 2009. I did in-home for about 10 years. After my 5th year, I was like, this is where I want to be. I wanted to move up in the field, so I went back to school, went to ODU, completed their master's
Pause
program.
for 1 second. You started in in-home.
2009.
Tell them a little bit about what in-home is, because
And
we at the table, we know it.
Intensive in-home
care.
Intensive in-home,
care.
community-based program.
Yes.
My job was to go into a home and help facilitate some it depends on the situation. So if it was issues with parenting, it was to just create a more family dynamic. A lot of the kids had behavior issues, just needed some redirection. We're going through personal things that they really wasn't able to express. So just learning the skills to be able to communicate and create a family dynamic that was working. So it was interesting. It was a lot of different homes. It opened my eyes to just Hampton as a whole. My area was all the way out from Gloucester to Hampton. So I would have a client in Gloucester, I had one in Williamsburg, Newport News, Hampton. A lot of driving. My little Corolla took a lot of.
But I'm sure all with different dynamics.
Very
when you
different.
talk about the pockets that you were working in, you're talking Gloucester, you're talking Hampton, Isle of Wight, Suffolk. So many different types of homes that you're dealing with, all with different types of dynamics.
And I think that's what helps me in the field now that I've transitioned into more outpatient and the inpatient was that dynamic of the diversity of it. I think it prepared me for the diverse clients that you don't know what's going to walk through your door. You get a referral, but you don't know who they are until they walk in. So sometimes it can be intimidating when you have a certain age group, when you're a certain age. I know with in-home, a lot of what was the primary issue was a lot of the parent-child dynamic. And with me not having children, the first question a parent would ask is, how are you going to help me with kids?
Oh, yeah.
And my response is, well, you called me for a reason. What you're doing isn't working, so obviously you need some type of support. So just being able to build that trust in their environment, I think, was very good too, because they didn't have to do a lot of work of getting to an appointment or the uncomfortability of not being in their own space. And you can see the reality of what was really going on in the household, so you can navigate that.
It's harder to hide those issues.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of times in outpatient, they tell you what you want to hear, what they want you to hear. But when you are in the home, a lot of times you can see, okay, this is why this is happening, or this is why this is going on. But you saw a lot.
They invite you to be a part of the family if you do your job right.
But you also have to be very strict with your boundaries, because then they get too close and they want you to come and rescue with crisis and different things like that. Various neighborhoods. I think I've been in every neighborhood in Hampton.
You learn the map.
So, just the dynamics of just even the environment, the neighborhoods, where they come from, really does have an effect on how people view mental health and just the aspects of it. So I've gone to some very nice picket fences, and I've gone to some
not so nice unfenced areas.
Right.
But what's interesting is the ones with the nice picket fence are the ones that really had the most issues.
Well, one of the things you mentioned in terms of just going from place to place is recognizing that even though someone may have the same diagnoses, their issues are different. Depression doesn't always look the same.
It doesn't discriminate either.
It doesn't look the same with everyone. And so oftentimes I know that's one of the issues with mental health, whereby we're so used to seeing depression look a certain way with people, especially if you even look at some of the commercials. And then you think, well, I'm not depressed. I go to work every day. I'm not depressed. I have friends. I'm not depressed.
People don't realize it's a spectrum.
Exactly.
Yes, and it looks different for different people. And like I said, mental health doesn't discriminate. So when you said the different environments that you see it in, it's in every environment. And people need to acknowledge that.
Definitely.
What do you see as the biggest challenge, in terms of the work that you've done with intensive in-home and even as well as outpatient work?
Within in-home, I think the biggest challenge was the parents. Most times the referral was for the child. So the perception of this is you need to be fixed. The child needs to be fixed. And not understanding that some of what they know is what they were learned, what was learned and what was taught. So getting the parent actually on board to participate in the therapy was probably the biggest struggle. The kid will always be there. Sometimes they'll call and say, "I'm not there. No, I'm not coming to your house with just you and your child.
Right.
So I need someone to be there." But the biggest challenge was really just the compliance of the parent. And then what I found interesting is, of course, we know everything is built through insurance and claims. So when Medicaid said, "You know what? I think he's reached his goal," that's when the parent they're still doing this. And I'm like, but they can't change that until you get on board to apply the skills that I'm teaching them. I'm holding them accountable. Are you holding them accountable? Are you doing the chore chart? Are you doing the reward system? All these different things that we're trying to apply, but you have to be included in it. So I think,
And it's a system
Yeah,
situation.
definitely.
Like you have to be involved in it. You can't help the child or quote unquote fix the child and put them in the same environment and think that it's going to change.
And just them realizing that there's an aspect of them that also may need some improvement and changing. So I in the beginning with in-home, it was just the in-home, but as I was gradually moving out of that area, it was they required the kids to have outpatient as well, in addition to the in-home, because sometimes they needed to process things just individually, and if we felt like the parent needed to be involved, family therapy was required. It became more of a requirement than just if it was needed. So just the family involvement, I think, was the biggest struggle with starting off in in-home, just getting the parents on board more so than the child.
But it got you into that mental health field, right? Because you're like, this is my niche. So you went from journalism to let me come on back here and work this, because your degree could work at that time, may not now, right?
Well, I mean, the journalism helped, to be honest with you, because journalism requires a lot of writing. You have to document.
Absolutely.
Well, Lord, you got to document all the notes.
Yes.
That's why I left work late today.
Hello, somebody.
It didn't happen. You can't claim it, you can't file it, you can't do anything.
Can't build
No
none of that.
procedure code, nothing. So you have to have documentation. Therapy requires a lot of interviewing, probing, getting things out of people.
Communication.
Journalism
Yes,
was the same thing. You had to have, and being able to ask those hard questions. When I was going through my master's program, the work that I struggled with the most was just like the classes for assessments and all the number stuff that came with it. But when we had to tape ourselves and do a therapy session, everybody else was nervous. We got to get a camera. We have to do. I was like, I already got a camera. That's the easy part. Let's shoot. Let's get it together. And I'm nosy, so I'm like, so how did you feel about that? And the teacher was like, you really don't have.
Like, I'm a natural.
I want to know, like, what's going on. So I really feel like that really helped me, because oftentimes when we graduate with a degree and you say, I'm not using my degree. No, I'm not a journalist, but that degree really helped me be able to, I think, it allowed me to be able to communicate a lot better with my clients. I'm very straightforward. I can be therapeutic if you need that, but most times people want the real, like, what do I need to do? How do I need to navigate this situation? And oftentimes, the coping skills work, don't get me wrong, but sometimes they just want to hear, what can I do and what's real? What's the reality? Realistically, what can I do in this moment? Because some of those skills I can't do.
Well, sometimes you just have to really spell it out for people. And unfortunately, and this is where we might, lose some of our listening audience. But our parents really are responsible for a lot of the challenges that our kids deal with because one, they've either seen it or you haven't been there to parent them through it. Kids are going to be kids developmentally. We already know what they're going to deal with, from a developmental perspective. We just have to be parents and parent them through all of those different stages. And it's when we don't parent at all, we lack the skills, whether it was we're choosing not to use them, or we were never taught them ourselves. We're just not able to provide, be that resource for our kids at that prescribed moment in time that they actually need it. And so we have to own it. And oftentimes, as parents don't want to own it, but as a therapist, we have to be able to deliver that hard message sometimes, and that's that communication, that straightforward journalism. It is what it is. These are the facts. This is what it is. And so we have to be able to deliver that message to the parents, and when they finally hear it, and they're willing to hear it, then we can sell them. I was just telling someone else the other day, as a therapist, one of the things you have to be a salesperson. Because you're selling them on a new way of life, or a different way of life, or even hope.
Yeah.
Yes. You're selling that aspect to them.
And our world want that. The way the world is now, they want that instant gratification. So if I leave a session and I try this skill, and if it don't work that one time, it didn't work at all. Not realizing that it takes time. It takes 14 days for something to even be a routine for you. You know what I'm saying? So if you consistently doing, it's that consistency that sometimes some of them struggle with, just either not wanting to do it, or if it's not giving that instant gratification. I have a client now who just self-care, that's all I'm asking her to do. Just one self-care thing. And she did. She was like, I went and got a facial, Miss Black. And I said, how did you feel? I didn't feel nothing. I'm not happy. And I said,
listen, one facial is not going to make you happy, my girl.
I said, okay, well, why did you choose a facial? She said, because you told me to. So now I got to reflect, okay, I can't we got to figure out what exactly makes you happy first before you just go out and do some self-care, because clearly...
Or can she even recognize what that is?
Yeah.
Because if she's never experienced that, or she doesn't have any times that she can reflect that she's ever felt that before, some people don't really... They're just not emotionally savvy. They don't know how to label all of their feelings, helping them figure out what that feeling is.
Yeah.
Because a facial is not going to do it for me. I don't like people playing in my face.
Yeah.
You understand? Let me be clear. I'm going to leave real agitated. And so understanding that the same thing doesn't make everybody tick. And understanding more about yourself. A good book makes me, what? That's some good self-care for me.
Well, see, that's why counseling is so personal. And like I said, depression is different for everyone, so everyone's treatment plan is certainly going to be different. The
That's
idea
why I
of
call
the
it
facial.
individualized.
Yep. That's exactly
Right. But the facial may bring joy to someone.
Somebody.
But to someone else sitting at the table, a facial surely is not.
Don't play in my
gonna
face.
make that person angry.
Yeah.
So then we're doing a treatment plan
Where
for
your
a
hands
whole
been?
nother issue.
Yes. Yes, that is exactly right.
So that's the piece that I always try to get across to folks, that therapy truly is an individual journey, even as it relates to working in family sessions, couples counseling or whatever. It's still an individual journey, because you have to know what your position is, what your likes are, your dislikes are, and how they impact not just you, but how do they impact the people around you as well, and so that gets into a lot of behavior modification that's necessary, a lot of self-reflection, and really some probing into who you are.
Because believe it or not, it's a lot of people out here who do not know who they are, and they're at ages where you would have this expectation that they've experienced a lot of things, but I have a client range of 80 to 17 to 80. So when I hear an 80-year-old coming into my office saying, I don't know who I am. I don't know what I like. I don't know what to wear. I don't know how to wear my hair. I don't know how to do this. And I'm like, well, what have you been doing for the past 80 years, and it was like I've just been existing. I've just been here. I managed to raise my kids. I managed to go to school. I managed to retire. I managed to do all this, but in all of that now, and I'm in this retirement phase, I don't know what to do.
They've identified themselves in roles
With all those different identities,
roles,
and now those identities
right.
are
so
no
now
longer
they're trying
there.
to figure out which
and
one
they really
is
don't
me
know.
because I can't do any of these specific things the way that I've done them. And when we look at our different generations too, a lot of older people were told how to feel.
Exactly.
They didn't really learn to have feelings. People would tell them stay in a child's place. And when I want you to have feelings, I'm gonna tell you which one to have. They would tell people how to respond to situations, what you could feel and what you could not feel, what would be acceptable ways to demonstrate your frustrations and what would not, how you should dress and how you should not dress, what you should eat and what you should not eat. So now when they're presented with all these choices, it can be overwhelming. What do I do? Because nobody's around anymore. All those people who told me what to do, they're deceased now.
Yeah.
So who now is going to tell me?
And our
what to
identity
do?
changes with every phase. I think that's going back to what Dr. Mason's saying, how we was raised, how we attach to people. Our attachment style is really based on our upbringing, being at home. I'm a PK, so most of the time.
Are you a PK?
So I was raised where you have church clothes, you have that, you have
Yes.
this. So when I transitioned into my adulthood, I started to recognize, like, I got church clothes right here. I have work clothes right here. So it
Club clothes.
Yeah. My turn up clothes.
Turn up clothes.
You realize that
I still have that same,
those things
those same things for a long time. I wouldn't wear pants to church because I just was like,
you weren't raised to wear pants to church.
That's not
your Sunday best.
Yeah, it felt uncomfortable in a sense.
Right.
But then, after a while, it was cold, and I said, you know what? These pants not so bad.
So you was raised to wear slips and everything.
Yes,
to church.
I own a slip to this
Yeah,
day.
I know your generation.
I have a half of one and a whole one, and I'm probably the only 38-year-old that has a slip and know where to find one.
Right.
Yes.
They don't really make them like that anymore.
Yes. So, but when I go home,
you have it on.
and I go to Daddy's church, I put that skirt on. I know, what is expected. So, and there's nothing,
you
even with Hampton.
said that too when
Right.
she go to Daddy's church.
That's
Okay,
right.
that's a PK for you right there.
And, even coming to Hampton really taught me that too. When I was accepted, in Hampton's letter, it said you need to have a suit, a skirt and a jacket. Women had to be a skirt.
Ogden attire.
Ogden attire at all times. Most times, if you came to do a presentation, you ain't had that jacket on. Oh, you ain't got to get up.
That's right.
Just sit on down. So
start tomorrow. Come
that
back
helped
tomorrow.
with when I got into the real world, because now sometimes people going in interviews with jeans on. I said, How you don't wear jeans to no interview? So my little first Family Dollar job, when I went in and I had on slats, they was like, what are you just applying for a cashier? I said, but my mama said I was supposed to wear this because this is what you wear in an interview. So it does make a difference.
But listen what you said. My mama said.
That's what
You
you said.
understand?
So, and that's what I did, and I got the job. So, all that, it does come from your upbringing. And a lot of times people, when they have these traumatic experiences when they are younger, it reflects into the relationships that they have as parents, as in just the dynamic of romantic relationships, friendships, all, relationships all around. So,
That makes you get up and go to work.
yeah.
Okay.
And I'm nosy. I'm just
Tell the
to being
truth.
nosy.
Tell the truth.
But
Shame the
I
devil.
was going to say, and I think I've said it before on the show, I went to a conference years ago, and I think the statistic was like 87% of the issues that we face as adults were brought on because of our parents during our childhood.
Absolutely.
And when we look at those things, we really have to begin to basically undo some of those things that were taught to us a certain way. And it's just because, well, my mama always did it, so I'm going to do it. My daddy always did it, so this is the way I'm going to do it. Is
We
that
do
the right way?
politics. We do all kinds of things that way. We discriminate against people based on the things that we learned in our childhood and our understanding. We understand the world based on that until we go to college sometimes and we experience different things from people from different cultures. That's why it's so important to step outside of just what you normally see so that you can see something else from a different perspective.
Yeah, it's interesting. I went to my class reunion last month, And I think I'm the only one that really like left Atlanta. Like the percentage is probably 10% out of my class. So when I came,
Left and stayed out.
and yeah,
Right.
Because people leave and go back.
Right.
yeah. I mean, Atlanta's great. Don't get me wrong, but it's, you know, I grew up here as far as being an adult, making decisions. Being at home, I don't know if I would have, you know, made some of the decisions that I made being here, having some level of stability and it being quiet, you know.
And it's really interesting you say that, because I tell people that I became a woman at Spelman in Atlanta, but I'm back at home. You know, so I understand how sometimes you need to get away from whatever your environment is to figure out who you are outside of what is already going on around you. I needed to go away.
Yeah.
Your parents needed you to go away. I
They
can tell.
did.
I know they did.
Let me tell you, but they wouldn't stay away. My mother specifically, she popped up like popcorn. You would have thought Atlanta was like 2 minutes away from Hampton the way she was there. And I was a non-traditional student too. So like I was 20 when I graduated from Spelman. So, and I was there 4 years. So that lets you know where I was when I got started. So she was worried about her. She was popping up at all cases. But I became an adult there because I wasn't somebody's little sister or somebody's child. I was able to figure out who I was and who I wasn't. What I liked and what I was not standing for. And so I think college is a beautiful thing that allows people to do that.
Yeah.
But everybody doesn't get that opportunity.
Definitely.
But you said you went to your class reunion. You realized that you were one of the only people who had actually left.
And you know, a lot of people that are from Atlanta, they're like, I would never leave. You know, it's I don't know what it is about it, but it's just I'm glad that my parents did not make it a thing, because ironically, Spelman was my only option, Hampton and Spelman, only because my dad was a professor at Morehouse
I
at
know
the time.
that's right.
But I did the college tour. Wasn't for me. It was just some didn't sit well being
And
there.
you're from there.
Yeah. And I think that was what it was. I really wanted to gain a level of independency. I think my parents did a great job with raising me to advocate for myself and take care of myself. And I wanted to test it out without them, in a sense.
Amen to that.
So
Drive the car by yourself one
yeah,
time.
I really wanted to test it out to see if I was built
If you have what
to
it
do
took
this
to do that.
without them being right there. And my mom's from Norfolk, so I had family here, so the security of other family being here was enough for her and for me to be okay with being here. But ultimately, I definitely grew up in Hampton. Hampton taught me a lot about myself, a lot about what I can endure. But therapy is what settled me, and I think I needed that to settle myself. Because I've always been assertive. I've always advocated for myself. My dad was like, you was always that one that would jump out and do whatever, but I didn't have control over it. You know, I was just like, no filter. I said what I wanted to say. I did what I wanted to do, and it helped me in certain situations, and it caused me to have some negative situations. So I think therapy really helps me balance my own mental health in a sense. You know, therapists are human too. We have these same emotions.
Say that again.
But I
It's
think-
not your emotions that get you in trouble. It's what you do with them.
Yeah, and I think the only difference is we just know the skills, and it's so second nature to us to go directly to them. And I think that's the difference between us and the client. The client is learning how to do it in that moment, versus we can kind of wait. I'm doing too much. Let me pull back.
Hopefully. There's some people who don't need to be therapists. Let me just put that out there.
Team too much.
But I think you get that one client that'll get you in that position to be like, you know what, I don't, just like with teachers, you get that one student, you know what, I don't think this is really
It's not for
me.
the faint at heart. You can do harm to people by not understanding your own issues and circumstances and prejudging circumstances, and it's a lot. It's an awesome responsibility.
And then taking in people's stuff that may be your stuff. I think that's a struggle too sometimes with being a therapist, listening to someone and you're struggling with the same thing in that moment and having to keep yourself together because you're trying to help somebody go through something that you're going through yourself. So in my program, it was required for us to participate in therapy. And I realized when I was in the program in therapy, I wasn't focused on me, because I was paying attention to the therapist and how she was doing her job, because that's what I wanted to do. So I'm like, oh, she used that skill. Oh, that's reflection. Or that's, I'm catching all her stuff and not paying attention to
Not utilizing that time
yes,
for
but
yourself.
then fast forward, I actually said, you know what, I need to get in my own therapy. And I didn't realize how to pieces I really was, you know what I mean? Because I was so hyper focused on, I'm here, I gotta take care of me, I'm not going back to Atlanta. I told my mom I wasn't coming back, and I'm standing on that.
Right. 10 toes down.
So
I'm not coming back.
whatever I gotta do, I'm gonna figure it out. And I think that focus kind of just, it drove me to a certain point. And then after that, I was like, you know what, I'm not taking care of me. You know, this, the money I can make and the things I can accomplish and all that, that's great. But internally, I got to figure out what's going on with me. So I think therapy really just settled me in a sense.
You can't sell what you've never tried.
Very true. Very true.
Not that I'm advocating people selling, a whole bunch of things. Therapy is not something we necessarily sell. It's something people need. We provide a service that people need. But if you've not been on the other side of that, people don't know how intrusive therapy can be, but also how helpful therapy can be when you reach those goals.
And I think understanding that it's not long term. I think when people hear therapy, they think sometimes it's like a pill. I got to be in it forever. And that's not necessarily true. Sometimes it's just what's going on in the here and now. You go in, you resolve that, and you can go about your day to day. But if something else comes up, then you can return to it. That's why I think that's the benefit of therapy. It doesn't have to be long term, but if it's not, you can always come back. And it's always something that you can learn from it. But it doesn't have to be this stigma where if you're in therapy, something is wrong. Sometimes it's just, I just want to vent. I've sat in sessions where I haven't said anything for the whole hour. Not a thing. They just needed to release. And at the end, I'm like, are you good? Yeah, that's all I need, Miss Black. I'll see you next week. Okay.
Therapy is definitely supposed to be that safe place where people can be themselves and say what needs to be said that they don't always know how to communicate with other people. That's what it's supposed to be, so that people can learn those skills to be able to express that. And get that reflection back to say, is this where we should be heading? Right. I don't usually tell people what to do. I teach them how to make decisions versus like making those decisions for them. Because what I find is that when people come to you in the room, they're not always giving you everything. So if you tell them what you think they should do, you're missing sometimes an element, and they're responding based on their reality and not always based on what actually occurred.
And it's interesting because as we now enter into the holiday season, this is a time that we start to see more and more people wanting, or should I say even needing.
Let's say that, needing.
Yeah, needing therapy.
My phone, this time of year, I think for the past 2 to 3 years, from September to February, is just,
right through Valentine's Day.
It's I think the most referrals or either return clients. My phone is just email. You got any space? You still have room on your caseload, or because it's anniversaries of certain things, and it's
holidays.
The holidays you may process, and this is the first time I'm by myself, or a lot of relationships. This is the first time I'm divorced, and my kids are going to the mom this year, and I'm here. All those different things come about.
Life is lifing. I've lost people in COVID, or it could be anything.
Or even
I've lost my job.
Yeah.
I mean, this time of year, and now you have kids. You've lost your job. They've laid you off, and here's the holidays
and family dynamics.
Right.
Because this is the time of year where people get together after not being together most of the year. So what's going on? Who's showing up? Who's not? Who's doing this? Who's okay? Are we still in a good place? All those different things. So it's a lot going on that is, if you're not able to emotionally regulate, it can be very overwhelming for sure.
And you work with a population who they're trying to readjust sometimes to being here.
Yes.
She also works with veterans, so yeah.
Yeah, so I'm getting a lot of, of course, my quiz. So how are you for the holidays? It's like I'm so used to not being home that I'm okay. You know, they've learned to detach to the point where sometimes it's hard for them to even be around family because they don't know how to interact because they've been gone for so long. Everybody is, you know, they've seen other people's kids grow up and see all these different life
Other
changes.
people kept living.
Yes,
Right.
and they're like uncomfortable because they don't know how to navigate the room. They don't know who to talk to. They don't know what to share, or what they have experienced they're not wanting to share because it's so traumatic. So, you know, everybody's talking about work or their job or different things that's going on, but
They can't share the
they don't
elements
want
of
to
the
share.
job.
Yeah, they don't want to share, you know, seeing dead bodies or these
Being
different
at war,
dynamics of
Right.
war and being having those experiences because it traumatized them. And you know, I'm not trying to take the mood down by discussing those type of things. So yes, they really do struggle with just the family dynamic, engaging, reestablish themselves as a member of the family as a whole. So
Figuring their place out. I know working with, you know, military families, because this area, of course, is heavily, you know, populated with military. And thank you all for your service, because you are truly, you know, giving of yourself, and not just yourself, but your family. You
A lot of the
you know,
sacrifices of families, yeah.
enlist in the military.
Yes.
You know, and
Holiday
families have to
times,
go
them
through.
being-
And they're away sometimes and all or whatever. So even when it's not a holiday time of year or time frame, just them coming back from deployment, it's like, okay, dad's been gone or mom's been gone, and there's a family routine. So now mom's back, dad's back. Okay, so how do you do this? You know, dad usually does my hair a certain way, mom. Okay, well, that's dad. I'm going to do it this way today. You know,
Yeah.
and trying
Discipline
to figure,
and everything else, yeah.
How do we figure this out? How do we navigate those things?
And God forbid you add the PTSD.
Exactly.
And you're not responding, or you don't look the same way as your family remembered, or you're not, you know, interacting with them the same way that they normally, how they remember you, because they,
Right.
while you've been gone, even though we have technology, they still have expectations of how you will interact with the family.
And God forbid you have kids, because, you know,
Yeah.
young kids will tell you everything, and they're just going to be truthful.
You cut your mustache off, right? Anything,
Why daddy just looking at the TV and not saying nothing?
Right.
You know?
yeah, definitely, yeah.
So kids will say those types of things, and so we really have to look at how do we navigate, you know, and get people to a place that it's okay to seek that kind of help. You know, for, you know, our families, for our veterans and stuff like that, or whatever. You know, I remember working with, you know, several families years ago, and prior to the military member being deployed, the family would come back in like a month before, you know, the person was to return, whether it was mom or dad, and they would begin to process, because guess what? We have to figure out, how do we accept our deployed service member back into our family, and not necessarily saying, do we want them or not, but guess what? We have to be sensitive to that person. And, you know, the families that I work with, I thank God that, you know, some of the technology has now improved, that, hey, we can FaceTime more, we can do a number of different things that we couldn't do years ago. You know, it's basically letter writing. You know, I'm out here under
You
the
hope
sea,
it got there,
you know?
yeah.
Exactly, you know.
Care
and so
packages, yeah.
now we're able to do a lot more, which is a big help, which adds a little more support than, you know, mom's feeling overwhelmed that I have to discipline this kid. He's not listening to me. Dad's in the screen like, boy, do your homework.
Yeah.
You know, that type of thing, you know.
Definitely.
And vice versa, whereas little girls may need that conversation from mom. You know, hey, this boy said this, or hey, I'm starting some things and my body's changing. Dad can't tell me about this stuff, you know. And mom is able to have these conversations, you know.
And I'm wondering how challenging on the flip side that is for some people to do their jobs. You know, because of all the technology, before you could just go and focus on your job and not have to worry about some of those aspects. But now people expect you
more
to show up in
accessible.
more ways. And I can imagine that's even distracting sometimes and stressful sometimes. You want your family, but also the guilt that may come along with having to real time deal with some of those issues and concerns that before you were just unavailable for a period of time, and people just understood that and gave you that grace.
But the challenge sometimes was also being away and knowing that, hey, during this time period, my son may start to walk, and I'm going to miss that. Or my son is going to start, he's going to have his first day of school, or my daughter's going to have her first dance
And I
recital.
can't be there, yeah.
I'm going to miss that. So those types of things really weigh heavy on our deployed service members and all. And so it's very different than just someone who's a consultant and travels, but just
taking
being
a vacation,
it's very difficult. That's what I certainly applaud and very thankful for the sacrifices that our military families make, because it does create some serious mental challenges in terms of not being there. And so being able to reintegrate them back into the family is key. And how do we manage that? And during this time period and during the holidays is really key, because so many different things happen during the holidays, and whether it's like you mentioned earlier, whether it's a loss or something like that or whatever. Not only am I dealing with that, but guess what? I'm a stranger in my own home. At this point,
and
how
the
do we balance
survivor's
that?
guilt of
and I was about to say a lot of them
who are
come
not
back,
able to come back home and be with their
guilty
families.
that they're not able to do that. That's a lot of them weigh on just the guilt in general. How did I make it back? Why was I the one to make it back? And they struggle with just the identity part as well, because their identity when they're deployed is to be whatever the military is requiring them to be. And so that aspect of being a parent, sometimes that disconnection goes away. So then when they come back into that environment, they don't know how to even parent, because they have turned that off for 9 to 12 months. And so now just trying to acclimate themselves as, what can I do as a parent? What do I supposed to do? Am I
what
too
is
much?
my role now?
What is my role in that? And I mean, you can tell a parent that is in the military.
Yes, indeed. The expectations. You move right now. When I say
the expectations
this needs to be
different.
clean, get to moving.
So that mentality of possibly having a mom that's more, chill, liberal, they built their routine, and then coming in and someone's like, no, get up. This is the routine. This is what we're going to do. At 1300, that was another thing I had to get used to. I didn't know how to tell the time. You had to learn
that military time.
It was like, be back at 4. I'm like, what time
1400. You better be there. You better show up at 2:00. That's what I do know.
So just that, adjusting to that type of mindset and knowing when to cut it on, when to cut it off, when it's appropriate to apply into the family dynamic, because there's nothing wrong with that. That level
discipline
of structure
is not
great.
A bad thing, right?
Yeah, but how to balance that, how to, oftentimes when I'm speaking to my parents, like, did you listen to your delivery? Like, listen to how you said it, and wonder why why they scared. They're scared because that was maybe too direct. It's meeting them where they are. I know. You normally don't have to do that. You can just straight say how it is.
They don't have to explain things in the military. People follow directives or people die. But when you come outside the military, the civilians, they need to know why. You can't just say do this and expect them to move.
Yeah.
To get their buy-in, they need an explanation as to why. And that's frustrating for people from that military background, because they don't have time to explain. They're not accustomed to people questioning their directives.
No, I just do what I said do.
Right now. What is wrong with you? Follow a directive. And then you skip the whole chain of command. You ain't asked permission to leave the room, or you didn't ask permission to be dismissed, or you didn't, whatever their rigor, what they're accustomed to, regardless of the branch, what they're accustomed to is an issue with the kids, because the kids aren't military. And the wives and the spouses sometimes may not be that way as well. So
it's a lot.
It's a lot.
It really
Life's for a lot of people.
Yes, and what I always tell folks is, from the flip side of that, we really have to be kind to people and really just understand. You just never know what a family or what a person is going through. Someone may look like, I'm okay, I'm
maybe
making it
smiling.
happen. Exactly, but you really just don't know what a person may be dealing with, and especially during this time of year as we move into the holiday season and all, we just got to be kind to people and just respectful.
And people tend to be kinder during this time of year. We find that. But what we're encouraging people is, don't just be kind to strangers. How about you be kind to the people
during this time of year?
You don't think so?
I've been out on Black Friday with my wife.
They're not kind on that day for sure. But you find people will stop and say Happy Holidays, Merry Christmas. You will find people will stop and will will greet people when they normally would just ignore you. You'll find that people will give or they'll donate more during these time of years because they feel like this is the time of year to do that. It makes them feel good about themselves.
I can't agree with that.
And so, but I want to encourage people, instead of giving to all these strangers, be kind to the people that are right there around you, the people in your family who may be veterans or who may have these mental health issues who could use a little kindness.
But if we do that all the time, and that's one of the things that
second nature.
There you go.
Exactly. Because it's almost like right now, you look at the food bank. Their supplies
They need
are low.
food all year.
Exactly.
Not low. It's empty.
Exactly.
Non-existent because people are struggling right now.
Right. They need that support consistently, not just during the holidays and stuff like that. So if people would just take the time to create random acts of kindness and put it on the calendar, like I'm going to do this at this time, I'm going to donate this at that particular, I'm going to give blood at a certain time, and do it consistently. Then we don't have to, as you always say, we don't have to get ready.
If we stay ready.
Exactly.
Indeed.
Exactly. So if we make sure that we're donating on a regular basis to the food bank, to the blood bank and stuff like that or whatever, then the supply is going to be plenty. And it's just like taking care of your family. At some point, if you're constantly practicing that kindness and doing those things, then guess what? You don't have to sit back and wonder, well, what's going on with so-and-so, because they're going to be in a place that you have that relationship that you can talk to them and they feel comfortable saying, I'm not okay. I'm not okay at all. And it's okay not to be
Happy
okay.
Thanksgiving, but I'm not okay.
Yes. I'm going to eat this turkey because I need to eat.
I don't even want that dry turkey.
You got to eat the thigh meat. Eat the thigh meat. You know what I'm saying?
I understand that.
Eat the thigh meat. That's when all the juices and the flavors,
Hey,
all in the thigh meat. But, and that's the thing, when people are at a place within the family and you're willing to have these conversations and just be real with one another, I think that's what the holidays are all about. And I think we're able to get past some of the mental health challenges that the holidays may bring about, when we're willing to do those types of things. So.
Before we get out of here, though, Sai, what are one or two things that you would like to say as tips either for those who may be struggling during this time of year or for those who may have family members that are struggling this time of year?
Communicate. To be very honest, just communicate. I think oftentimes family is, we have this dynamic where we also put on a mask, whether it's for ourselves, whether it's for Nana, whether it's for, someone just to not have conflict. But the reality is sometimes if you just communicate and say what it is, then we can come to a middle path and try to figure out how you either can be supported or how we can fix whatever's going on. If everybody's quiet and not really voicing what's going on, then 9 times out of 10 it's going to continue to be overlooked until something happens, and then
where you're forced to deal with it.
When you're forced to talk about it, and that person is not emotionally in a place to be able to receive or communicate it. So I think just the key is just communication.
And I remember seeing a movie with Danny Glover. I think it was Danny Glover. His wife had passed away and all the kids were coming home. And he was so caught up in trying to make this sweet potato pie that his wife typically made during the holidays. And it really boiled down to the fact no one really wanted to admit that they were missing mama. And everybody, they were having all of these family dynamics and all of the issues that they were having because everybody was bottling that up. So certainly being able to communicate that's an issue. So what else?
Self-care, finding new traditions. When I first moved here, it was just me. So I had to build a support system. My immediate family is in Atlanta, and I don't get to go home that often. So I learned that I got to figure out how to build my own support system here. I found a family that welcomes me at every event, everything. And then the past couple of years, I changed that. All of our cousins, we're older now. We shouldn't have to depend on our parents to bring things together. So for me, somehow, I became that person. So this year, Thanksgiving's at my house. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, wow.
What time is dinner? Hold on, let me write that down.
Okay. Can you cook mac
It's
and
at
cheese?
3
That's
o'clock.
all I need to know.
We'll be that cousin.
I'm only responsible for the greens and the turkey wings. That's all I'm contributing. Everything else is, but you know, I'm it's a potluck. Everybody just is coming together because at the end of the day, as a family, we have to decide how to create those traditions and how to do those things for yourself. And if you don't have it here, it with where you are, you got to create it yourself. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the one thing that I've learned since being here is having to communicate. And reach out to people and involve myself in different organizations and different things in order to build that support system that I've been able to gain in the almost 13, 14 years that I've been back. So I just think that just trying to find your own traditions, create your own thing that's going to work for you, because everybody's doesn't look the same. You know, everything is not all about tradition. Sometimes you got to create that for yourself.
And a closed mouth doesn't get fed.
Exactly.
There it is.
Well, listen, everybody. New tradition this year. We're all going to Messiah's house.
Okay.
Just make sure you bring something. 3 o'clock.
Just bring something. We like to eat.
That's right.
Exactly. Well, thank you all for joining us once again right here at the table. I am Dr. Richard Mason.
I'm Dr. Tamara Williams.
And we are right here at WHOB Smooth 88.1 FM.
The essence of HU.
Keep you forward.
Someday we'll be able to measure the power of words. I think they are things. I think they get on the walls. They get in your wallpaper. They get in your rugs, in your upholstery, in your clothes, and finally into you.
Thank you for joining us at the table.
Tune in next Sunday at 1 p.m. for more delicious topical recipes for life on the Sunday Brunch.
On Smooth 88.1 WHOV.